Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How's the
Yeah?
pandemic treating you?
That's the question, right? I mean, like, are we going to have a civil war? That's the question here. That's so fucked up. But,
Oh,
we're okay. How about you?
yeah, same here. So first of all, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
I'm so
so
glad to meet you.
much. Yeah, same here. Like we had planned this in November or December, and like
I
finally
know.
it's happening. Yeah.
Busy women. So it's
So I
good.
have I have a long list of questions for you, and
Okay,
shall we get
awesome.
started?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let me hold on, put on my lipstick.
So please
Okay,
tell us
awesome.
something about yourself and your company lately. How did it begin?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm Kate Bradley Chernis. I'm the CEO of Lately, and we use artificial intelligence to instantly transform long-form content into tons and tons of social posts. So like you could upload a podcast like this, and we would instantly splinter it into hundreds of little video clips of the cool things that you and I say, right? What's really the hard part that's happening in the background is the AI actually learns which clips to pick based on studying the analytics of your social accounts. And it looks for the words and phrases that your audience is going to be most likely to reshare and comment on, right? So that's how it knows. So it's kind of like this two-part thing that happens. It's pretty cool to like automatically have a ton of social posts written for you, right? But then really the cooler part is like the smarts behind it, you know?
Right. So how did this idea come to your mind? Where did it start from?
Yeah, so it wasn't my idea, sort of. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Like, I didn't understand that this could be automated. I I was a marketing agency owner, and I had Walmart as my client. So I was working with Walmart, and they have obviously lots of franchises in the States and everywhere. And it was them and the National Disability Institute, and also the IRS, like so our government here, our federal government, and Bank of America with all their franchises, and AT&T and all theirs. And so it wasn't just like this huge retailer, it was all these little stores also that are run by regular people, you know? And together everybody was trying to work on a project to help lift the poor out of poverty. So it was like a good cause. So I came in and I thought, okay, well, how are we all going to do this together? And I could see that marketing, content creation was a real problem. Nobody wanted to do the writing, Komal, right? So sort of surprised at that. And they were hiring out consultants like me to do the writing for them. And then once someone would write like a newsletter or a white paper or a press release, then almost nothing would happen with it. Maybe someone would say, check out this press release, and that was the end of it. So it felt like a big waste of time. And then figuring out how to get tens of thousands of people all on the same page, because consistency is everything. So like, how could we get them the messaging and make them push it all out together at once? So I came up with this spreadsheet system that did that by hand, manually, right? So it was a lot of work. And as I ended up getting them 130% ROI year over year for 3
That's great.
years doing this. Yeah, thanks. That was crazy. My spreadsheets were like, I'm kind of anal, like, believe it or not, my office doesn't show that very well, but my cupboards do downstairs. But like, I wanted to chase down every little component that was happening and unify it in this spreadsheet, because this is, well, almost a dozen years ago, Kamal, so there was no cloud. I made
Right.
them the cloud, right? It was a different idea. And then I suddenly had a marketing agency because I had done this great thing, and I was using the spreadsheet system for all my clients. So I met this guy, Steve, who's now my co-founder, and he was like, hey, we can automate this thing you're doing, and we can create wireframes, and you just need $25,000. And I didn't understand any of that stuff. I didn't know what a wireframe was, of course, um, $25,000. I worked my whole life. I was buying my first house. I was like, this is some other language you're speaking to me, So he took the money out of his own pocket, and then brought in another one of my co-founders. They came over for dinner one night and they showed me the wireframes, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. So that's how we got started, you know.
So you like it began from scratch. It began from spreadsheets, and now it has turned into this company. So what has the journey been like? What any hardships that you faced down the road?
Yeah, I mean, so many, right? So there were all these reports and statistics that came out a couple of years ago that studied the difference between females and males CEOs getting funded in the startup venture world. And it showed that female entrepreneurs only get 2.3% of all the funding, right? So 2.3, that's white female entrepreneurs, okay? If you're Black or a person of color, you're not even on the map there. So it's not fair, to say the least. And what I didn't understand why the goalpost kept moving for me. People would say, oh, you only need to do this and then you'll get the funding. And then I would do that, and I would do it, I'm sure just like you would, like the best A+ work here, right? And then still get shafted. And so that's been really frustrating for me. But I have one of my female investors, her name is Joanne Wilson. She was the one who noticed this, and she's like, this is happening to you. And I couldn't believe it, right? It just seems so stupid. And then also it felt a little bit like, I don't know how to say this, but like even women are against women a lot, right? It's so weird. And so I had this perception too, that I didn't want to be this whiny bitch, you know, who was.
I had heard this quote that there's a place in hell for women who don't support other women.
Yeah, right? It's true, because you don't know yet, you know, and the society brainwashes us into not helping each other, by the way, right? It's on TV as like, you know, cool, which is so weird. So yeah, it took me a little while to understand that it really was a prejudice against women, and also that I wasn't imagining it. Does this happen to you? Like I find that every woman I know, first instinct is to think she's imagining it. She's making it up, right? So you run through all these scenarios in your head of why you must be crazy for thinking this, right? But that's not what's happening, right? They are gaslighting you. And that's tough to say, because people think, men especially right away, think you're a bitch, you know. But I've had so many scenarios where, and I can share, you know, if you want, like, do you want to hear a story?
Yeah, sure. I'm always up for
Okay,
stories.
so this one is my favorite. It was around that time a couple of years ago, and I was in New York City, and I had a meeting with a venture capitalist who was the head of a company, and I'd met with his junior people several years before, but it was someone that was a very famous name and would have been a great get for me, right? So it was a big deal. And I'm nervous, and I walk into the office 15 minutes early for our appointment. It's a glass office. I can see everybody, and they can see me. And I can see that he sees me when I come in, and his secretary comes over to me and gives me some glass of water. It's a small place, so it's very clear that I'm there. And the time for our meeting comes, and I see him pick up the phone and make a call. So now he's going to be late to our meeting, and I can see that, right? Okay, so that's insulting. And so we go to the meeting 15 minutes late, again in a big glass room, and he brings in an assistant with him. And the first thing he asks me is to give him all of these numbers that are online everywhere about our company, right? So I'm like, John, are you sure you want to spend our time? We have a half an hour. Are you sure you want to spend our time doing that? And he's like, yes, this is very important. And I was like, you can just Google it. I mean, this is not about the company. And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So I start giving him the numbers, and he's like, no, I need it first. Date, time, okay. So now he's kind of manhandling me, all right? But I'm scared, because this is a big guy. He's a big deal, you know, and I don't know what to do. So I'm like, okay. So we waste like 15 minutes doing this stupid bullshit. And then I'm like, so now I'm starting to pitch my company and do my pitch. He's not listening. He falls asleep. Okay? And there's someone else in the room. He does one of these things. Okay? I am not boring, by the way, like of all the things. So then when he falls asleep twice, when he finally wakes up, after him not listen to me at all, he then stands up and says, I'm going to give you a lesson in XYZ. Okay, so now he's going to mansplain me some shit that I don't need to know. And he starts drawing on the whiteboard this whole, it's a diagram that's gone around in a famous blog that I've already seen. Any person has in my world. So now I'm very insulted. Oh, and also his daughter's name is Katie. And so he keeps telling me how much I'm like his daughter, which is very insulting because he's putting me here right away, right? And so at the end of this meeting, and I know right away I'm not getting money out of this guy, he does this thing that so many people do, and I had to learn this. He backs his chair up and he puts his hands behind his head like this and leans back and he says, so how can I be helpful to you? And what that means is, get out of my office, I'm not investing in you, right? But it's they're trying to be nice by not, no one wants to say no flat out. And I stood up, Komal, I was shaking so hard. And I stood up and I said, you can be helpful by never doing this to anyone else again. And he goes, what do you mean? And I was like, you called me your daughter, you mansplained me, you fell asleep on me twice, like, you're a jerk. And he was shocked. Okay, which is amazing.
What was the point in calling?
What is the point? What a dick. And he's like, wait a second, let me explain. And I was like, no, I'm already elite. I got to get across town. And he's like, can I email you? And I said, sure, email me, because I couldn't think of anything to say. So I stomped out of the room, and the glass door, it was like one of those magnets. You can't be in front of it to open. So I can't get the door open. I have to ask him to open the door for me, which is so embarrassing. And then I go stand by the elevator where they can all see me. And he did email me, and it was the stupidest email ever. And I did what a friend told me to do, which is delete with your middle finger.
Right.
So that's typical, right? I mean, yeah. And most of the time, we or anybody, I just happen to have the wherewithal to say something at that moment, but a lot of times you don't. You just walk away and feel terrible,
Right. So it must happen to a lot of women. I can't even imagine. So
yeah.
Right. Coming back to lately, I was curious about something. So for a company using Lately, does it aim to just reduce the redundancy of humans working on social media, or is it just the algorithms doing the entire job, running the whole show?
Yeah, good question. So we know that humans and AI, in marketing at least, have to collaborate for it to work, right? Because marketing and sales is based on connection and trust and how you feel, emotionally. And a robot can't give you a hug through Zoom, but I can, right? And so we insist that our customers work with the AI, and there's a couple reasons. Number one, to give it that human magical je ne sais quoi, right? That little spark, but also so that the AI can learn from the human even more. So you get to curate it. So my goal is this is an American metaphor, but to start you at third base, right? So of baseball. So that's a pretty big lift. So getting rid of all that annoying stuff you don't want to do, so then you can do the stuff that you do want to do, which is the actual voice, like the writing of it. That said, to be honest, we do eliminate some positions, because if you have somebody doing just busy work who's not putting the brain in it, for a larger company, we're saving them on average 8 hours a week per person, right? It's a lot of time. We like to think that they're spending that money or time on the fun part of marketing, the hard part, the human part, which is like the ideas, that would be my goal.
So how diverse are your clients? Like, are those big companies or startups as well?
Yeah, it runs the gamut. We have smaller companies, medium and large, across all kinds of industries. What we qualify people by first is their level of commitment to the job. I mean, marketing is work. It's not, you can't just push a button and walk away from it, like anything, really, right? But people have this weird aversity to marketing. They don't understand it and they really don't want to do it. It's so amazing. Our smaller customers, they have to have at least two social channels that they're publishing on almost every day. So like a social animal, we call them. And they have to have some kind of long form content like a blog or a podcast that they're either producing or that's coming to them. Like I do a lot of these. I do a lot of like earned media, right? That they have this pain of unlocking. They don't want to waste it, right? So if those are the qualifications, then we can move up the chain, and we hire by seat or we sell by seat. So that's how we work with larger companies. So there's this feature, Komal, where am I saying your name right again? I want to make sure. Komal, excuse me. Komal, thank you. That's so important, Komal, where we can sit one account on top of many others, like a puppet scenario, right? So a CMO can create content for her boss on LinkedIn, and a salesperson, and maybe the HR person who's doing digital recruiting, and every other employee who wants to say cool things about the company but doesn't know what to say, and she can push it out on their behalf through Lately, right? So it's like that's how I did the Walmart project. Yeah.
So do you think everyone understands what you're offering, understands Lately as a product, and do you think there's an opportunity to scale?
I'm sure most people don't understand it because we are very bad at describing it, as you can tell. That's the hard part of like doing something that's new, and you get in your own mind. It's been really annoying because like this is supposed to be my job, right? But the fun part is listening to people like you describe it, because then it gives us that different vantage point of like what you think is valuable. And then watching our customers, we didn't sell AI in the beginning, Komal. We sold organization, which is not sexy. We found out, right?
And very few people have that quality of being organized.
That's right. That's right, right. So people do need to be organized, but they don't care about it, generally speaking. And so we had all these features, but we didn't know how to kind of unify them. So we just watched what customers used. And the feature they used the most was the auto generator, the AI component. So then we learned to really flip things around, What was the second question you asked, Komal? I forgot.
Yeah. Do you think that there's an opportunity for you to scale further?
That it's important for us to scale. Yeah, I mean, right, because that's the game I chose to play by being a SaaS company, with venture investment, right? So otherwise I would just have a nice marketing agency and keep making money, but instead of making a real salary, I've chosen to eat dust for 7 years. But we've had a very good year last year, which sounds bizarre to say, but we grew the company from $25,000 MRR, monthly recurring revenue, to $77,000 MRR in 10 months.
That's great.
Right.
Everything went digital last year. Everything was happening online. So
yeah, and people's mindsets changed, right? They were more open to try new things. So that was huge. And we also we got a boost where do you know Gary Vaynerchuk? Gary V? Yeah. So he's kind of a big guy.
Yeah,
and
big shot.
He's a big shot, yeah. So we'd been working with his team for a little while, and we released a feature, and one of his team made a mock Twitter channel out of it and just walked up to him and showed him. And he goes, "Oh my God, who are those people? I want to meet with them on Monday." And that was the video clip feature that we talked about before, right?
Yeah, I saw
and so
that.
You saw that, right? So we get Gary a 12,000% increase in engagement because he has so much long form content that he wants to unlock, and the AI learns the more you feed it, right? And what happened then was we didn't have to do a bad job of explaining what we did anymore. We could just show people Gary's Twitter channel, So that made it a lot easier for people to go, "Oh, I get it,"
Right.
Thank God.
So there are a few social media marketing companies out there. There's Buffer, there's Hootsuite. So what is the USP of Lately? Like, what makes you different, and who are your competitors?
Yeah. So, you know what's so funny is for so long we were like, we're not a social media company, we're a writing company, right? We were resisting and resisting. And that's not true. What we are a social media platform. And those guys haven't evolved in a decade or more. And so none of them have the ability for AI to write the content for you. So that's where we're positioning ourselves now, is like, are you still using your grandfather's social media content platform? Because we're the only one that does, has AI and is writing the content for you. So that's kind of exciting. That's really super new. We're about to launch our whole new website with new pricing and new product tiers and this new positioning, as well as an integration with HubSpot, among others. So really, like I said about the learning and what people are responding to, like each of these things have been brewing now for a long time. Usually we get some information and we're able to use it pretty quickly and apply it. But because I haven't raised money in 2 years, right? So it's been so weird. We've been having these problems and they've been getting worse and worse. And then I figured out how to bootstrap it in a new way. So I'm so excited, Komal, for the next couple of weeks. Thank you. Yeah, it's weird because I'm so used to being like Chris, one of my salespeople, says, somebody asked him, what's it like working for a startup? And he said, awful, awful, awful. Some good news. Right?
Yeah, I guess you raised your seed funding in 2019, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, we did. So from 2014 to 2017, we did 2 priced rounds, more or less, 2 price rounds and then a couple of extensions. So that was $2.7 million. And then in 2019, last year, we did a small note of under 200,000, which from Jason Calacanis was part of that. So for folks who don't know, he's the host of This Week in Startups, and he runs the Launch Accelerator in Silicon Valley. So that was a really big deal. And, 90% of my staff wasn't paid for 2 years until recently, and I still need to pay my CTO, God bless him. So yeah, we're in this weird position now where I was raising a seed over the summer, but I kind of wasn't, because I'm over it. I'm over doing the dance and having the bar continually moved. So like, instead of reaching out and updating 614 contacts that I've talked to in the last 4 years, I reached out to like 20, didn't really try because we were too busy making money, So now I don't need to raise at all, right?
So there's no plan for fundraising?
Well,
now.
It's hard to say because we're thinking about it. We were doing a seed this summer, but now we're doing an A, right? We're about to hit $1 million in ARR. I'm pulling together a small note from current investors. Like, again, I don't need the money. It would just give me a little more flexibility at the moment. What I want is to take some time. I got all these pieces coming together that I've been working on for a year, and they're coming together right now. The website launches Friday, tomorrow. And the HubSpot piece launches in a couple of weeks later. So, and I need to see how stuff's going to be broken, and I need it to come together and see what happens. So my gut says, sit back and take some time and then go for the A this summer. But the other thing too, Komal, is what I've had to learn the hard way is to just feel the market out. I'll have conversations. I've got appointments with venture capitalists who've been reaching out to me, and I'll take the temperature. And if someone's like so excited and they want to go for it, great. But I'm not going to, sorry to talk so long of this, like, I don't care anymore. I'm not going to kiss your ass anymore, right? If you want to be on this team, I'm turning SaaS inside out. That's been dead for a long time. The way people fund SaaS, yeah, and the way people have been telling me for years, you're doing it wrong. And I'm like, well, it's fucking working. you
I
know?
think lately it's kind of revolutionizing SaaS, the SaaS
Thank
scene.
you. Thank you so much. That is the biggest compliment I can take, because that's what I'm doing. I want to do, and I want to be, whoever's going to lead our round is going to see that and be psyched to be on that train, you know?
Right.
I don't need to convince them. You know,
So,
so go ahead.
so what, according to you, are the main ingredients for an effective social media marketing?
Yeah, so there's a few. Number one is to do it, which is hard. People, and do it from the beginning. You know, you can't say, okay, now we need customers, when you have no network or audience built up. So you have to start building that from the beginning. I knew that because that's what I did my whole life. I was, I was a rock and roll DJ before. And so I had 20 million listeners. I had a whole bank of fans that I could bring along to this, right? Keep them warm and you leverage that network. So number one, you have to do it from the beginning. Marketing often gets thought of as an afterthought, but as you know, it's actually the only part of any business that runs across every part of the business. So sales and engineering and HR, and of course, customer service, right? They're all connected by the messaging of the company internally, because internally is the culture, right? And externally, like your customers. So that's one. The consistency is obviously key as well. You have to do it all the time, and you have to do it at scale, to your point earlier. So like we use Lately not only to do the marketing for the brand Lately, but all of the employees, their social accounts are connected up in that puppet scenario, because together we're better, right? And also if your employees don't like working for you and can't vouch for the company, then you have bigger problems. So that's one thing. And then, obviously the writing is a really hard part for most people. I found, Komal, that this is so interesting to me. Our customers, one of their biggest challenges is finding what's interesting about them, finding their voice. They think, a lot of people think of themselves as boring, which is amazing. Of course, no one's truly boring, except for maybe me when I made that guy fall asleep.
That was his problem, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was his problem. But thinking about, so we do a lot of free classes. You might have seen them where we will have an open to the world class where we'll auto-generate some content that gets you to third base, and then I'll go in and show them literally with actual writing tips and tricks in real time of how to take that third base run and turn it into a run. What are calls to action that really work, that are valuable, or how do you get the character of your voice to communicate trust and
Right.
Personality, right?
I write content myself, and sometimes there's just this mind block, and you can't think about what to write and what will appeal to others. So
I know the feeling.
yeah.
It's hard, right? I have actually this book where is it? This is my inspiration book, which I love so much. It's called L is for Lollygag. And it's a very strange thesaurus stash dictionary of just weird words like gumshoe, jabberwocky, conniption, codswallop, akimbo, just words that are fun to say. And so it makes me laugh also, but when I'm looking for hyperbole, which is something we all need more, we're always trying to find different ways of saying that's awesome, right? So this is where I go, and so I'll write things like, hold on to your bagels, or holy hot pickled peanut peppers, or random things like that, and amazingly, they do two things, right? It makes people laugh. It makes me seem corny, which I am. Which is relatable, and it gives them a quick access point to me, like now we have some kind of common ground that we
Icebreaker,
can
kind
relate
of
on.
an icebreaker.
Yeah, icebreaker. Yeah, icebreaker. Yeah.
So
Totally.
from what I see and from what we have discussed, lately is surely beyond just social media marketing. And so what's in the pipeline for lately?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, so the AI, because it learns what your customers want to read, watch, and hear, two things. Number one, we can apply that to any kind of text, not just social media content, right? We can create billboard copy or paid advertising copy or email copy. So that's coming. Um, Also, we've taken it to the next level already in private beta, where we are now feeding the data sets from our customers into the brain, so it can learn two things. Number one, you can push a button and create any voice you want. So if you want to create a voice that sounds like Gary Vee, push a button. Or if you want to create a voice that addresses the hotel industry, you can push that button,
That's
right?
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Just getting more granular on the two problems, right? What do people want, and that personality that they have a hard time figuring out.
So we at VCBay, like we of the whole team got an opportunity to watch the demo, and we all were like pretty impressed. It was really cool. Like the
Thank
dynamics
you.
of lately, and it's not just a content generator, but then organization and everything that is important for a company, especially a startup, because a lot of things are going, and one person has to manage maybe two or three teams. So it really comes handy, I think, for them.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah, we're we built the beast. We just need to learn how to communicate that. But I'm really excited for the new launch. We're working with, by the way, so Judy Lehrer was the 51st person hired for Salesforce to direct their product, be the director of product. And then she moved into the senior director of marketing position. So she's got a background in both product and marketing. So she has been advising me for the last year and a half. She's also a venture capitalist, so what a great ally, you know. And so really working with both the engineering team and the product team and me and the marketing team and sales team, taking apart Lately and putting it back together in a way that will help us go up market in a pretty large way, right? So that's what we're really excited about. Like, we know that the long tail is also available for us. We haven't forgotten to address them, but we need to go up first so I can play the game, right? Got to play the game and win the game. I want to win the game.
Yeah.
So having Judy as our leader here has been just, I mean, her advice, she knows, how to work this way. And the fun part, by the way, Komal, is to do it in the Lately way. So we've learned consistently, like I said, not to do what everyone does, right? And so what's our spin, on even a homepage, right? And I know what that is, and it's just taking apart, like Judy's so good at putting the language of what an enterprise person would want to read, and she's awesome, and it's very clear, but also, our voice isn't there. So like, it was my job to go in and like twist it up a little bit and make it, I want you to be excited, right? And I want our customers, we already do this, but like, we've built an advocacy flywheel, and we did it because we know that the hard way is what works. Actual human connection, taking time to make you have a demo with me, even if you're a one-woman show,
And you must
right?
be very good at it. Like you have an experience, where millions of people will listen to you.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just like this. I mean, we're having a conversation today. Like, I mean, you're getting to know me more than I'm getting to know you, but like, that my goal is to make you smile and make everybody lean in a little bit, right? So hopefully that works.
All the best for lately for what's about to come in future.
Thank you.
And yeah, like I enjoyed your conversation, and thank you so much for taking out time for this interview.